And there we are.
What is happening, people?
Friday.
What is going on? To start off this episode of Toilet Paper Fortune Cookie, we'll do what Governor Cuomo here in the state of New York does every time he sits down for his daily briefing and says, "It is Friday."
Thank you.
Just to remind everybody what day it is. It's funny. He gets a lot of grief here because people do screen captures every time he comes on to do his briefing at noon. And the first thing that flies up on the screen next to him is, "It is Tuesday." Because I don't know if there's ever been a time in our history where you go, could be Wednesday?
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, that's a day.
Don't know. Look at all our people chiming in already. Hello to Alice and to Melanie and to Micah Davidson and to Courtney Jordan and to Michelle Mutella Stringer. Don't know who she is.
Yeah, no idea.
Hopefully
sure I'll meet her tonight.
I'm sure
we share the same name already. It's amazing.
Happy Friday, David. And happy Friday to all of our people out there. Welcome to the Toilet Paper Fortune Cookie Podcast. Unorthodox Wisdom from Unexpected Reality. Dave, remind him what that means.
Sure. As soon as we figure it out.
Right on.
And I guess that's a little bit of what it's all about, right? So this podcast seeks to discuss the aspects of entrepreneurship, business, and the arts, and how that all gets squished together into maybe something funny, something entertainment, maybe some wisdom will get squeezed out of it. So our goal is to share our experiences and the experiences of others, and hopefully help broaden entrepreneurship across all industries.
Hear, hear. We're basically solving all the ills of society and mankind.
Listen, that is one of the entrepreneur's weaknesses, is we think we can solve every problem.
What is that called? Schadenfreude?
I don't know.
I believe that's something in the world in Schadenfreude, where you take on all of the burden of the world and believe I can change it. We're going to go with that. If anybody knows the actual definition of Schadenfreude, post it. While we're talking about things like that, if you guys enjoy this, if you guys like to watch our live cast, if you'd like to listen to our podcast, which is now available on several different places. If you like, thank you to Dave. If you like watching us or the replays on here or on our YouTube channel, then by all means, please go sign up, like, subscribe, share,
download,
anything you need to do.
Pledge your undying love of our craft.
It is a craft. You're exactly right. We appreciate everybody who's been following us, and now we have over 500 and
540 some
followers on our Facebook page. We really appreciate it. We're trying to do something fun and interesting, and get our minds working and lean towards empathy and move towards the future. Right? That's not too much.
Yes. So we'd like to also say thank you to the guys at Side Hustle. We're in the merch. We're in the merch tonight for the show. For the use of their song, "Work with What You Got," which we were joking about behind the scenes. We like the little sound, a little doo-wop. Check out sidehustletheband.com at sidehustletheband.com. And check out, they have a podcast, which is really cool for those that are in the music industry. It is called Bottom of the Bill, which is a kind of a funny play on where they are in terms of their growth. They're always at the bottom of the bill, so they're working to get their font size increased as they continue to grow. But it's called Bottom of the Bill Podcast, and it's really cool. It's two members of the band who interview lots of folks from the music industry. So check that out. All right. What are we drinking this week?
Dave, I'm going to disappoint everybody, our thousands and thousands of followers.
Agua. Well done. Smart choice.
Smart choice. It's when you go, you know what? It feels like the world's restarting a little bit. So I need to restart, I need to restart.
You better be ready. Be hydrated.
You know what I'm saying? It's even though vodka is the most calorie friendly. You're right, Alice.
Yeah.
Is the most calorie friendly for right now. Just for now, we're going with our core hydration water, which is BS. But you know, $3 for a bottle of water, right on.
So tonight I am bringing Scotch on, a nice Scotch blend, and I am gonna raise a toast here to a colleague of Insignia who left our company a couple of months ago, went to work for another company, one of our customers. We stayed very close to him, and unfortunately, he took his life this week, and we are all suffering. And so I'm going to raise a glass to Johnny and Zavino. Left too soon, my friend. And just a reminder to everybody out there that's watching, if you're struggling, my God, call us. We'll talk to you. Don't check out too early. So stick around. So
there's help everywhere.
All right. So I'm looking at my script here and making sure I'm on track. I am, but
what is it, Dave?
I feel like something's missing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I've gone over this script like 1,000 times, and it feels like I forgot something. I don't know. Do you feel that?
I don't. If it's, I don't. It's like it's similar to if for just one time you have a Moscow Mule and you get that Grey Goose, you spend the extra couple of bucks,
right?
And then you go back like the next time and you just get one with like Tito's,
yeah,
and you're
it's not the same. It's not as smooth. It's not as enjoyable. It's like, wait a second.
Once you set the bar up there, you owe it to yourself.
Right.
It's like remember Jessica from last week? Remember?
Yeah.
She was great, and everybody thought she was great, and
she was totally cool. Right. So
there's nothing wrong with us. Everybody likes just you and me.
Right. Of course. Yeah. I mean, we hold down the show. All right. So I mean, it's good, right? But
it'd be so great just to hey Jess.
I don't know. Well, why don't we do that? Hey Jess.
Can we do that? Oh!
It worked.
I'm back.
What?
Hey guys, how are you doing?
How are you just waiting there in front of your screen with your headset on and all wearing black like we're supposed to?
Weird. That's so weird. I don't know. Maybe we're up to something here. Jess, why don't you kind of let them in on what we're up to here?
Firstly, thanks so much for having me back, guys. I had such a great time with you last week, and it's kind of become my Friday night staple to have a drink. So I'm personally drinking a Bombay Sapphire and tonic with extra lime.
Cheers.
That's my drink. Cheers. And then I have my water on the side, Stokey. So
good mix.
It just makes sense.
So thank you for having me on, having me back. I really enjoyed getting to hang out with you, and you guys talked to me about coming back and maybe doing a segment. So what we talked about is that I would come back occasionally and just like kind of pop in like I did just now and say hey and what's up. And I actually thought of the name of my segment. Would you guys want to hear?
Yeah.
Okay. The Heart of the Hustle.
Ooh.
That's me. That's my thing.
Heart of the Hustle.
The Heart of the Hustle.
There's a reveal.
Okay.
Dave and I had heretofore not heard that. Love it.
So I wanted to surprise you. Oh man, I was supposed to ask for a drum roll too from you guys, but that's okay.
That's okay. Well, here on the show, you get your own little marquee.
Oh, I didn't think I could do it. Awesome.
Look at that.
Okay.
I can type, ladies and gentlemen.
So what I would like to talk about tonight on the Heart of the Hustle is something that I've been doing a lot in our wingman workshops, where all we're doing is just discussing basically that this is all pretty sucky. There's a lot of sucky stuff going on. And sometimes when you can define it and you develop that self-awareness around it, it's what helps you push through. So there's actually an acronym that I learned about from a mental health expert, and it's called NUTS. And the acronym is for 4 things that when one of these things are out of place, it's stressful. And right now we're living through all four of them. So this is what nuts means. It means you're experiencing novelty or new experience, unpredictability, threat to ego, which is, could be just self, it's a healthy version of ego, that how we self-identify ego, threat to ego, and sense of control lost. And since this is a podcast that is often to all of our performing arts friends, in addition to entrepreneurs, I can tell you that one of the things that really I think is hardest on performers, is hardest on everybody, but I think it's hardest on performers, is that our identity is so built into being that performing artist. And so that's the part that I think we can possibly consider shifting, where that identity rests. And I'd actually made this really cool meme, and I made it out of a picture from Matt Stokey's Instagram. And I tried to post it in here earlier, but it won't attach very easily. So just so that you know, when you go on Instagram and you put in Matt James Photo Studio, there are 2 Instagram accounts.
Careful.
I didn't know this, because one is like,
careful.
both are phenomenal, and you must check both out. Matt James, what is it? Matt James Photo Studio. But just so you know.
So, hey, I'm going to challenge that for a second on the identity that you feel that performers attach their identity to what they do more so than anybody else. Did I hear that right? Because
no, it's true. I think I'm just thinking about our Broadway friends and performing friends right now that have lost everything. And that is huge. And I'm not disregarding entrepreneurs, because deciding to sell Jam Cosmetics was one of the most difficult things. Like, just having to come to that conclusion that the smartest thing for me to do would be to let it go was huge. Who was I going to be without my company?
So I think, so you keep saying like, hey, when do you know you're actually an entrepreneur? And I would say another realization of being an entrepreneur is when your identity is not hooked into that product you have built, right? Because then you've let it go, and now you're open to other opportunities. And to me, that's an entrepreneur. If you are a one and done guy, hey, congratulations, right on you. That's great. Maybe you're destined to be a business owner and not an entrepreneur, right? An entrepreneur is the guy that goes, or gal, that goes, oh, I did this, blah, 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 blah. All right, put that out in the world. Oh, let's do this, blah, 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 blah. And we'll talk about that with our guests, because we are bad together in making stuff do things. So it's going to be fun.
So that actually leads me into the quote that I found, because I started to think about, so when we're in this like nuts state, going through threat to ego, sense of control lost, the unpredictability is insane, and it's all a completely new experience. It's like that way to make it through is that shift in perspective. So listen to this quote, because I think it's pretty cool. And it's from some obvious female genius, Erica Williams Simone. Best career advice I can give: don't ever attach yourself to a person, a place, a company, an organization, or a project. Attach yourself to a mission, a calling, a purpose only. That's how you keep your power and your peace. And I'm going to put that into I'll put the quote in there, because like I said, I made a really cool, like it. Yeah, it's in there. I'll stick it in the comments so that everybody can grab it and borrow it and share it. Very nice. The other thing is that just to like make it through all of this and make it through the nuts part is to remember what we've actually been able to accomplish. Because 2 months ago, there are things you're doing right now that you never would have imagined you would have been able to do. And if I had told you 2 months ago, you would have laughed in my face. And maybe one of them is even just making it through all of this, this shit show of an experience. Sorry.
What?
We have children watching.
There are no kids on this channel.
So,
I mean, we are doing, if you'd have said 2 months ago, hey, you're going to have to stay home for the next 2 months, you'd have been like, what? How's that possible? I can't, what? Yeah.
People are out there creating things that they never would have imagined 2 months ago that they could do, and they're surviving because of it. The other thing, I have one more thing, 3 things that, like, to get through nuts part is just to find your tribe. And it's like that small core inner circle of people that they've earned your vulnerability is the way I like to say it. And it's generally not a post on Facebook, generally speaking. There's an inner core that you have that it's going to, like, seriously just get you through. So that is all I was going to say about that, the heart of the hustle, and that we all really need each other more than ever right now. So,
nice.
That's all I got. Thank you. Applause.
Well, welcome back to the show, and we'll look forward to your future segments of Heart of the Hustle. That's awesome. So welcome back. So,
thank you,
Mr. Stokey.
Yeah.
I believe it is time for a Stokey story. Is it not?
I would like to. I want to tag on to what Jess just said. I wrote a thing on my whiteboard on the back of my front door on April 1st. And I said, let's just see, underline, 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 what will life be like, ... on 1 Memorial Day. So here we are. And we've got considerable hills to climb, but there is a feeling, and there's a distinct feeling in Manhattan right now, at least in Midtown. Today being out was similar to what Fridays usually look like. Similar. The one big difference was the lack of complete and utter logjam of traffic going into the Lincoln Tunnel. There was traffic going into the Lincoln Tunnel as usual, but on a Friday at 3 o'clock, it is absolute gridlock. And there were people out. I will say 90+% of people were wearing masks. There's nowhere in New York right now that you can go inside anywhere without wearing a mask. But it feels like the hibernation part of it is over. Now figuring out, as our governor says, how we act socially is going to determine how it moves forward. So it feels better. It's not going to help those of us, as Jess just mentioned. There was an article in Variety this morning. The headline was, "When will Broadway reopen?" And the headline was, "When we get a fucking vaccine." and that's basically what people are starting to wrap their heads around, is that that's probably the case. To see anything remotely normal, it's not going to be until then. If that's the case, then you pull up your little boots and you start moving towards that. With that in mind, quick story about something that happened. We're having I was in a Broadway show called The Boy from Oz in 2003, starring for the first time on Broadway, Mr. Hugh Jackman, who is both a gentleman and an incredible guy, and probably the single best looking human being I've ever met in real life. Like, male, female, vegetable, animal, mineral, the best looking human being I've ever, it's like off-putting.
Not disagree with you.
It makes me angry.
It
really makes me angry.
Really tough.
Physically.
And in addition to that, just being the nicest guy in the world, and just we screw around.
And that's just the worst, right? When they're handsome and they're nice, it's like, I expect you to be an asshole when you're really that good looking.
So we're doing, as I've done with several casts of shows that I've been in, we're doing a reunion next week. And so I was coordinating with Hugh and everybody else in the cast about how we're going to do it and all this stuff. And we started going on this little Facebook group, and we just started already telling stories. And it was an epic year on Broadway. And one of the things that was epic in my world was I made the brilliant decision of having what they call in our parlance a showmance. And they never work out. Ever work out. It's called also, I would say, shitting where one eats. And I became involved with one of the girls in the cast, and it was awesome. We started in rehearsal, went all the way through opening. It was amazing, all this stuff. And then it started to go not so well. And then it started to affect our work. And then it started jealousies, and it was the weirdest thing ever. And then it just became super drama. But I was like 30, and I was like, I love drama. It's great. But after
I feed off this energy.
It was great. Like going to the theater and just being like, what's going to happen tonight? It's going to be awesome. Not to mention, she lived right down the street from me on 46, like 8 buildings away. So it just got to a point where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I talked to some of my friends, and they're like, you have to end it. So one night I was like, I have to go. And this girl that I was dating, she said, do you want to come over after the show? Sure. Awesome. We did it all the time. She would make some food. We'd have some drinks. It was great. And so at the same time, one of our casting directors, my buddy Dave Clements, called me during the show and said, you want to get a drink after the show? And I was like, yeah, I have to go see this person. But yeah, I'll stop real quick and have a beer with you. I stopped in a place called Marlowe, which was on Restaurant Row. And Dave was sitting in the corner of the bar. I asked for a beer. I drank the beer really fast, and I told him I had to go. And he's like, what? Why do you have to leave? I said, I have to go break up with
this person.
Her name was Pamela. And I said, I have to go break up with Pam. And he was like, oh, man, dude, that's going to be quite a thing. I was like, yeah, it's going to be quite a thing. And so I like steeled myself, walked down to her apartment, rang, and she shows up, and she looks beautiful. She handed me a beer, and I could smell like she cooked up some food in the background. It's after the show. There was jazz playing, and it was awesome. She was all set for a romantic evening. I kept my jacket on. And I sat down on her couch. I sat down on her couch, and she was like, okay. And so I said, the worst thing you could ever say to a significant other, we need to talk. The worst 4 words ever.
And she walked over and grabbed the beer out of your hand.
No. She was way too smart. So she comes over and
she handed you another beer.
She sits down on the couch and she said, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, so, and I went into all these reasons, and it's affecting work and this and that. And I said, so I'm really, really sorry, but I said, I have to stop this. I have to break this off. And she said, just to be certain here, you're breaking up with me. And I said, yes. And she sat there for about 5 seconds, and she said, no.
That is a true salesperson right there. Nope.
That's scary.
Not taking no for an answer.
I said,
that's scary.
I just broke up with you. And she said, yeah, no, I don't accept that. And I was like, but that's what I want to do. I said, yeah, that's not a good enough reason. And I was like, what? It's like affecting. No, we can get through that. We can work on what happens when we're at the theater and all that. But this is great. What we have is really great. So yeah, I don't accept that. And I was like, and so I just went, okay.
What's for food?
You did not.
I was like, but I told Dave, okay. So I get up, I go to the door, and I go, so I guess we're still together? And she, without blinking, she was just like, I'll see you tomorrow. And I was like,
oh my God.
Okay. And I go back, and like 15 minutes has passed. I go back to the bar, and Dave's still there. And I come in, and my stool was still warm. I sit down, and I'm just like, I ordered a beer, and he's like, what are you doing here? I was like, well, he's like, did you go to her place? Yeah. Did you tell her? Yeah. Did you break up with her? Yeah. What'd she say? I said,
no.
She said no. I said, she said no? I said, she said no. I said, she denied the breakup. I said, she denied the breakup. You told her all the reasons. I told her all the reasons. And what did she say? I said, she said they weren't good enough reasons. And he said, so are you still together? I said, yeah.
Matt, you can at least live knowing the fact that your instincts were correct.
I was like, what? I've never, and I just sat, just quietly, just drank my beer, and I was just like, okay. He said, so you're still together? Yeah. And I'm like, okay. I go into work the next day, and my buddy Timmy's like, how'd it go, man? And I was like,
we worked it out.
We're in a weird place, you know? He was like, what, did you break up with her? Uh-huh. Well, she seems awfully happy. I was like, yeah. Well, why? Because we're still together. He's like, what? I was like, I'll tell you later. I can't. But it was, I've retold that story probably 1,000 times. And it was just because I got totally Jedi mind tricked. She was just like, no, that's not good enough reason. We're still together.
In fact, you're still together today, aren't you? I mean,
I'm
waiting for her to comment.
So.
I'm waiting for her to comment on this, you know.
I
and
would
say
like
her side of the
let's
story,
hear from you.
Matt,
Put some comments.
Her side of the story.
Yeah, we're going to go and find Pamela and invite her to this podcast. So you need to watch this.
Well, I can tell you that she's probably one of only 2 people who will not be attending our Boy from Oz reunion because nobody has any idea where she is. Yeah. But if I would also love to tell you that was the weirdest story out of all the stuff that happened, but it just got weirder and weirder and weirder. They're really good, but I had to. I was just. It was.
So that's Pamela part 1, right?
That was Pamela part 1. There will be several. There could be several more.
It could be a series.
I would have to make it into. Oh, that's a good idea.
A series within a series.
Then what happened with Pam?
Nice.
So, yeah, that was not my finest moment, but it certainly it made for a good story. So I was pretty,
Did you ever break up with her eventually? Did it like end, or did the show just end?
Let's not rush to the end here, Jessica.
Sorry.
I mean,
this is compelling stuff. I want to hear what happened.
We just launched a new series within the podcast here called the Pam Stories.
There's Stokey stories, and then there's the Pam.
And then there's Pam Stories. It's a subtext.
It could really. All right. Because I could go back to the origin of it, too, which happened during the Great Blackout of 2003.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, we're going to save that. We're going to move on because we got to get to our guests. And I have a great section here. I've been working on this one all week, so I'm semi-tempted to just skip over it and save it. But no, because it ties into our guests. So welcome to the Jean-Luc Picard decision-making process. So everybody's seen Star Trek, hopefully. I mean, there might be a few people out there that have never seen Star Trek. So brief overview, Star Trek, The Next Generation was the show that I grew up on as a kid. In high school, loved it. The captain of the Enterprise, the ship in the show, captain of the Enterprise was Jean-Luc Picard. Patrick Stewart.
Love him.
He's awesome.
Love him.
Let me say this. I make no copyright commitments or all rights reserved Star Trek. They have not given me permission to talk about their character in a fictitious show. So there is no rights that I assume or, anyway.
Neither is Pam.
Huh?
Neither is Pam.
Apparently. We have to find Pam. So in the show, all right, Jess, you are. We'll get to Pam. We'll get to Pam's second story. Anyway, so in the show, when there's something going on the ship, Captain Picard would call all of his senior officers into his ready room, and it was such a cool thing. It was like, let's meet in the ready room. So they rush off the bridge. They go into a conference room. And there are all his officers or a la managers, right? And so he sits at the head of the table and they give an overview of the problem. And then Jean-Luc begins to ask questions. And he sits there and goes around the table and lets people talk and he asks questions. And it's a perfect model for how any CEO should go through a decision-making process, right? First, you need to surround yourself with people that you can say, hey, I'm going to ask you some questions about a particular situation. And it may be a situation that you bring to that group, right? But you've got to have a group around you who is willing to tell you information, give you information, managers who are willing to let you know what the situation is. No bullshit, right? Because that was what was so cool about that room was there was no BS. Everybody just got to it. Everybody said what they needed to say. And Picard would go around and ask these questions and get the information as he was trying to decide what to do. Whether a planet was going to blow up or a supernova was about to take over or something, I don't know. But I mean, these were very stressful situations, and they would sit down nice and calm. You know, it's like red alert. And they sit down and like, all right, Data, tell me about the situation. And then, you know, the computer android tells them about the situation. You're like, all right, well, what do you think of that, Riker? And then they go around the table, right? So what this would do is it would give Picard all of the information he could get to make a good decision, right? So when Insignia started, I really wanted a ready room. I was so in love with this idea that we would have a situation and I would go and I would sit down and I would bring all the managers in and I'd be like, all right, tell me about that configurator problem we're having, you know? And so we'd go through and, you know, we would have that. Well, I would always put a table in my office, and that was my fictitious ready room. So anytime there was an opportunity to talk about an issue, I didn't sit behind my desk. I got up, I would come around and I would sit at the table. And I was clever then too. I made it a circular table. So there was no head of the table ever, mainly because we had 3 other people. So, I mean, you know, what's the point of having a big conference table when you have 3 people? So the point is that I incorporated this into the way that I made decisions, and I would go through this process to make decisions. So looking at my notes, make sure I didn't think, oh, here's some important pieces of this. Number 1, and I learned this. So this is learned experience. You do not call a manager meeting or an officer meeting in the ready room when you've already decided the outcome, right? Because then you're not open to any new information. You cannot make the decision prior to going in. So if you've already made the decision, make the damn decision and go forward, right? But if you truly are seeking input, then create that environment where people can tell you what they think and they can hear you. Because if you go into that room and you have already made that decision, your team is going to figure that out. It's only going to take 2 or 3 times, right? And your questions are going to suck because all your questions are going to be to validate the decision you've already freaking made. So don't go into the ready room with the decision already made. Yes. Sorry, I have to make sure that I cover everything. But anyway, for those young entrepreneurs that are out there, that is a perfect way. Go watch an old Star Trek Generations. Watch one of the scenes where they do that. Watch how Picard asks questions. This is the other big piece of this is, remember we talked about impulse versus intuition, right? So impulse, and this is a wonderful way to create impulse control. I have an idea to, you know, put rocket boots on shoes and sell them, right? Let's figure out if that's a good idea. So then my impulse is I'm going to go buy a bunch of shoes and a bunch of rockets and start trying to figure it out. So instead of doing that, get into your ready room, tell me about rockets on shoes, you know, and go through the process of getting input before you make decisions and before you move forward.
Dig it.
Awesome.
Your sister is obsessed.
She is obsessed? I'm obsessed. Oh, love it.
Obsessed.
Thank you.
Ready,
All right.
Scott
So
Simpson agreed.
I tell that story because it's a wonderful introduction to our next guest that we're about to bring on. And he's been so patient. Hopefully he hasn't gone through all of the bottles of whiskey that he has lined up for the show. So I'm going to bring on Ryan Sanderson. There he is, where he is in my studio. Ryan, are you there? There he is.
Here, guys.
Welcome.
So,
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome to the show, Ryan Sanderson. So, Ryan Sanderson is a military transplant and a former Air National Guard airman. Thank you for your service to our country, sir. He lives in New York County and has for the last 15 years. He currently resides in Rock Hill with his wife and 2 children. He is one of 2 co-founders of Knowledge Perk, and we're going to talk about that company a lot tonight. He's active in the community, and we're going to talk about the community of Rock Hill and the entrepreneurs here. Highly involved in the York County Regional Chamber, and Ryan was named the 2019 York County Small Business Person of the Year, which is a great honor given that there are many businesses in York County, and Ryan really is a standout. So, Mr. Sanderson, welcome to our show.
Well, thank you. I don't feel like I don't need to be here now. That was it. Covered it. I'm good.
Oh no, we got a lot of questions for you, man.
Nice.
So I told the Picard method because one of the things that I love about Ryan and full disclosure, Ryan and I are good friends. I think we're good friends. We're good friends, right?
Excellent friends, sir.
Okay, good. Whew. All right. We are business partners. And I have mentored Ryan at one point when he was making the transition to full-time Knowledge Perk. So full disclosure. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Ryan is without me giving him the Jean-Luc Picard lesson plan, he does this. He surrounds himself with really good people that he gets really good information from, and he's one that will make great decisions. And I've just watched him through the last 3 years of knowing each other, some really great decisions along the way. So anyway, welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thank you. I'm happy to be on here. Glad you invited me. I've had fun listening for the last little bit, so excited to be on here.
Tell us about your company.
Yeah, so Knowledge Perk is a coffee company located in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and I say coffee company because I think a lot of people, when they think of coffee, they think of a small-time coffee shop. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we've been pretty intentional from creating this to make sure that we build a company, meaning we are as fully encompassed in the world of coffee as we can possibly be, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that a lot through this podcast. So we are a roastery. We are a coffee shop that you can actually come in and sit down and have a cup of coffee. We have a technology element to our company that we're working on building out and likely even turning into a technology spinoff so that it's its own category. And we are heavily focused on education, and specifically in education, how to get the customer involved in the process. There's so many interesting things about the coffee industry, but it's a very, very closed world. And if you're not part of this inner circle, then you're behind this veil of mystery. It's almost like the Berlin Wall, and you don't get to see anything on the other side of that. And my business partner and I really wanted to make sure that we brought something different to the coffee industry. We've been very intentional in our plans. We have a long-term plan on where we want to go, and it's huge, and it's bold, and it's probably stupid, but it's going to be fantastic. And so we've been very careful to start with little pieces along the way, and those pieces now include the roastery, the retail shop, and we're spinning off education and tech now.
And so this isn't your first foray in being an entrepreneur either. This isn't your
Correct.
First company that you started. So tell us a little bit about the first company you started and how you got here today, because I think it's a great story. And you picked up a lot of stuff along the way, kind of like Jess when she was sort of being brought along and then found the right spot. I feel like you're same with you.
Yeah. So I'll see if I can't do a 1 minute backstory because there's two pieces to that. And I don't want to take all our time on this. So long story short, I originally started with Starbucks. I was a barista at Starbucks at the age of 15, started super early. I had a full-time job at a barbecue place as well. I joined the military. I came back to Starbucks. I was a GM for Starbucks super early. Then I did some project management stuff with Starbucks. Got recruited out of Starbucks into Harris Teeter and absolutely hated it. It was miserable. I'm not going to say I'm going to burn Harris Teeters down because you don't say that online because that's bad. So I wouldn't do that. But I wouldn't cry if something happened. We can't edit this. Anyway.
Dude, it's live.
Yeah. All right. Okay, whatever. So Harris Teeter, I was desperate to get out of Harris Teeter. And so literally just was applying to stuff all over the place. Found a company called Get Spiffy. My wife, the first time I told my wife about it, she literally thought it was a scam. It was the most sketch thing ever. This guy randomly calls me and says, "Hey, you applied." Asked me like 5 questions. I was like, "All right, cool." And he hung up. Wait, what? Like there was no explanation of what he was calling for or what he wanted or anything. It was super weird. Long story short, I ended up following up on that. I really wanted what they were doing. I drove to Raleigh, Durham, even though I didn't have an interview, and said, "Sit down with me." And they're like, "Wait, you drove 2 hours from here?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just got off work, but I want y'all to hire me."
Actually, 3.
Yeah, it was 3 hours. Yeah. 3 hours to get there. And so they actually sat down, they gave me an interview. I came back a second time, they hired me. And it was an entrepreneurial company, it was a startup company. I really wanted to work for a company that I thought had potential to grow. And as I'd done some research on who owned this company, I thought it was a pretty good opportunity. And so I took the risk. So I left Harris Teeter and I joined this company called Get Spiffy. Started out in operations, and then within a few months, I kept poking fun at their VP of sales because I thought she did a crappy job. And I kept saying, I could do her job. I can do her job. Well, they called me back to Raleigh-Durham one day and was like, hey, we hear you keep talking about our VP of sales. I'm like, yeah, she sucks. I could do her job. I'm like, great, it's yours. I thought, oh, shit. I have no idea how to do sales. No clue in this world what sales was. So I had to put my money where my mouth was and learn how to do sales. And kind of that opened up a whole bunch of doors in Charlotte. And I got to really grow inside that company. The cool thing is, the guy that owns this company has had 4 exits. He's had 2 multi-billion-dollar IPOs. So he is a data savant. He's a very, very smart guy, and he knows the entrepreneurial world. So I got to kind of be in the background of that and watch how they were doing, how they were growing. And they had this thing where they didn't care what I did in my spare time. I had numbers to hit, and if I hit those numbers, I could go golf 7 days a week. That was the wrong thing to tell me because I hit my numbers and then I wanted to go do what I wanted to go do. And so I started getting involved in different things and I saw what they were doing. And it's kind of the same mentality as like, well, crap, I could do this. My wife and I moved from Rock Hill to Fort Mill. And when we moved to Fort Mill, there was no trash company because we moved from Fort Mill to Rock Hill and we're in the county. So there was no trash service. And Fort Mill City just picked up our trash. And so in Rock Hill, I couldn't find anybody, and I was so frustrated. And I thought, you know what? I should have a trash company. I met a guy who was also interested in the opportunity. We talked. The next thing you knew, we started a trash company, and I was able to start this trash company in the spare time of working at the other one. And kind of the things that they were doing in a model, I'd see that and say, okay, that makes sense. And so I've just R&D, rob and duplicate. I'm a big advocate of thievery. It's like Robin Hood over here. So, and I'm taking from the rich and giving to the poor is what I'm doing. So I stole their really cool ideas, and we kind of took that into the trash industry and looked at doing stuff, and that went really well. And between Spiffy, a couple years there, and a year and a half at the trash company, and making a whole bunch of mistakes and learning, I realized that this entrepreneurial world, this idea of creating things and building things is really, really where I wanted to be. And that's what kind of laid the foundation for wanting to build this company, Knowledge Perk.
Awesome. So let's talk about Knowledge Perk. No, great story.
Thank you.
Beautiful origin story. So let's talk about Knowledge Perk because I was starting to hear your name around Rock Hill, and it was like coffee technology, and you were in the incubator, and I was like, what is, I didn't understand the technology end of it. And so somebody explained to me it was personalized coffee. You would go in and the theory is you would go in, you would say, this is what I like about coffee. And then I could make the David Stringer roasts. And each time they came in, I could have my coffee. And I was so blown away by that. I mean, I'm in the auto industry and we're trying to personalize vehicles. Of course I get it. So that's what I really thought was pretty innovative about your company. So tell us about that. Oh. Tell us about that individualism for coffee, because I don't think that's a common idea at all. I mean,
it's not. In the coffee industry, it's very much what the industry professional says is what goes. And that's one of the things that frustrate us a little bit is, we could say to a degree what we liked or what we wanted, but any coffee shop that you go to, what they sell you is what they think is the best. And so it's always, almost from a selfish perspective, it's always about them. It's their taste buds. It's their values, what they like, which is fine because they're obviously offering that to people. But we started thinking about, when you go to breweries and stuff, it's the same kind of thing. And it was cool. And we started getting involved in this brewery process, but it was super passive. And so we realized that brewers could go in and they could say, okay, you know, I don't like the way this tastes, so I'm going to create this. And this is their vision of what that product should be. And then there's this process where you as the consumer get to come in and you get to see that process and watch it. You can see what they do and how they build it, and you can be a part of the end result. But you as a consumer don't get to create what they created. You can only partake in it. So it's this very passive thing. And we started thinking, like, what happens if we take that same idea, but let that vision go to every customer? Like, can they actually create their own product? And then what they get is what they wanted. And so we took this idea and we kind of ran with that. So we started with actually corporate America, and from a wholesale perspective, it was like, all right, let's go find a company and let's have a company come in and create what they want. So we work with them as a team. We'll build a product together. Everybody has say in it. We'll educate them on some pieces of this, so everybody can make an educated decision that says, okay, I like this, and now I understand why I like this. Because I know why I like this, I can piece together what I don't like. That will help me make a decision on this product. And so that education piece is super important. We started doing that, and now, you know, we're the coffee provider for Atlas Copco, Chicago Pneumatic. They're not a small company. We provide coffee to Composite Resources.
Their blend, right? I mean, I think
their blend, correct. So they actually have their own Atlas Copco blend. It is labeled for them, created by the CEO, president of North America for Atlas Copco. The controller actually was in from Switzerland. He was part of that process. So as a company, they're in, and that's their product. So then we started taking that and we started moving that into each individual customer. And in our new grand opening, thanks to COVID, thank you, COVID, we're going to do another big grand opening, you know, kind of welcome back the community. And in that grand opening, we will have our full coffee immersion program open, where each individual customers can come in and go to a roaster and they can create their own specific coffee roast. We can help them with the process. We'll show them how to use it. They can physically roast it, package it themselves, walk out with it. And the beauty is, if they like what they created, our software saves that roast profile. So David, you come in, you create it, it's exactly what you want, you're thrilled with it, you love it. We save that. Let's say you go back to go visit Mr. Stokes, right? You go do that, and when you I saw that was adorable, by the way. When you go do that, you can order your own coffee online, and we will ship to you the David Stringer roast that you created in our store.
Yeah,
cool.
Oh, so can I ask you a question, Ryan?
You can absolutely ask me a question.
So, wait, which one was that? Which one was that?
I think you might have to introduce each one.
Yeah, I think.
Driftless Glen.
Nice.
This is a straight rye whiskey, single barrel, that's 48%, 96 proof. The first one, by the way, in case you were wondering, since I'm just working my way down the line, this is a Seagram's Crown Royal from the beautiful year of 1968.
Wow.
So it's a vintage whiskey there. So I'll just keep going with that. But I'm sorry, Jessica, I interrupted you. Question.
So where did this idea come from? Like, how did you wake up one morning and decide you wanted to let people make signature roasts?
I'm so glad you asked. So it's kind of funny in a way, because if you'd asked me a few years ago if I was going to be in coffee, I'd have said absolutely not. I enjoyed my time at Starbucks for sure, but had no interest in the coffee industry again. And it wasn't until I started doing more stuff with entrepreneurship. This is where I kind of found my passion, and this is what I like doing. And still, coffee never occurred to me. I had a friend who approached my business partner, Jonathan, who was like, "Hey, I want to do a coffee shop. Are you interested?" Like, no, absolutely not. Like, just wasn't thinking coffee shop. And he went and tried something. It didn't go the way he was wanting it to. He had somebody introduce him to David Warner, the technology incubator here, which is what Stringer mentioned earlier. And he's like, "Hey, you need to go find somebody to help you do this. You should go talk to Ryan." So we talked again. And I'm like, all right, well, if we're going to do something in Rock Hill, then I'm interested. I've only got a trash company. I'm doing some stuff with Spiffy. I still got time on my hands. Why not? I felt like at that time, and I didn't realize how important this phrase was then, but I've done dumber things. What could go wrong? We're going to talk about that later, David. So I said, all right, we'll do this. So,
Really?
we literally, shook hands and said, okay, we're going to do this. I thought, if we're going to do this, I want to be part of the technology incubator because I wanted David Warner's help in creating something. And we didn't know what we were going to create. We just wanted to put a cool coffee shop in Rock Hill. We went and told him what we were going to do. And David basically laughed at us and said, yeah, absolutely not. We're a tech incubator. We'll help tech companies or we'll help companies that are scale, but we're not interested in a lifestyle company. And I thought, all right, screw you, buddy. It really pissed me off. And he literally basically told me that we can't do this. And the idea of being told I can't do something.
Ding, 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 ding.
It was just like, all right, you know what, buddy? I got you. And so, we went to our ready room. We had one. We went to our ready room and we sat down in a circle and we're like, all right, let's go. What are we missing? What do we do? What do we create? And we kind of went with this Google philosophy of there is nothing off the table. So we're going to ask two questions always over and over again. Why not? And what if? So what if we did this? And the response should automatically be, why not? And so if you can constantly keep asking those two questions, you never know what you're going to come up with. And so most people are stuck inside this box of, well, we can't do that because it's not cool. We're not supposed to, whatever. And it's like, why not? What if you did? And so that's how we kept going down this road. And we got farther and farther from, a coffee shop to we ended up with discussions of holograms inside the store with artificial intelligence and virtual reality and touchscreen walls. I mean, you name it. And all those things are still in play. We need more money to do them. But that's what kind of brought this whole thing together was David Warner looked at us and said, that idea sucks and you can't do it.
Wow.
All right. I got you, bro. So
that's
what's
the beginning of a really good idea, generally.
Yeah.
Chivas Regal, blended, 12-year Scotch.
Nice.
Sorry,
I gotta say, every time the term incubator comes up, were you guys fans of Silicon Valley on HBO?
Seen many episodes. Yeah.
Okay, because TJ Miller plays this guy Ehrlich Bachman. TJ Miller, a lot of hair, comedian, big dude, has a really funny voice. He plays this guy Ehrlich who has a house in Silicon Valley, this old mid-century house which I desperately want. And all of these nerds, all these programmer nerds, app developers live in his house, and he just keeps referring to it as right here in my incubator. And so all I can think of is sitting in the corner just smoking weed, come out just doing code, just coding for hours, taking like Adderall, It was like it was developed right here in my incubator.
Yeah.
It's so every time I hear incubator, I'm just like, that's all I picture.
Nice.
So David Warner, I think David Warner could be the farthest person away from that description. So here in Rock Hill, and at the same time, the incubator here for Rock Hill is much broader than that idea. And I know I get the joke, but I mean, I just wanted to, for our viewers, help them understand that this. We call it the TI Center now, Technology Incubator. It's for all different types of companies, and they're really looking for people who have innovative ideas that could be intellectual property ideas, patentable, and some of the things that Ryan was brought back to David. Really, because I remember that story of David coming to me going, I just told those guys no, and they came back and they gave me this amazing, and so you really need to go talk to them. And it's like, whoa, all right, that is a pretty amazing idea. Let's go talk to them about that. And I also want to say, Ryan, I think when people hear coffee shop and they have the typical idea of what a coffee shop is, and what you've also done, which is just, I think, unheard of, is you've built this incredible following. One, your product is freaking awesome and people are nuts over it. And I'm not just saying it's awesome because I like it. I'm saying it's awesome because people go crazy over it. You have rabid followers. So talk about how you have created that social media around that, because I think that's part of your success. You meaning Knowledge Perk,
Yep.
You almost didn't skip a beat in the COVID. I mean, you guys were rocking and rolling, doing all kinds of crazy, weird stuff, like a pop-up coffee shop in the middle of a parking lot. What?
Yep.
Who does that? Well,
we do.
Why not?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's funny. We've had some people ask us, you know, what was our marketing strategy, and you know, how did we pull off the number of followers that we have? Considering to this day, we have never spent money on advertising. So Knowledge Perk has been in business for 3 years, and we have spent zero. Our advertising budget is $0.
Wow.
And so that is fairly unheard of. And so, you know, we've had people from the county ask us, okay, you know, how did you do this? How did you make this happen? And some of it, I'm not going to lie, sheer dumb luck. It's, you know, right place at the right time. And a lot of it is, we decided early on that we knew who we were as a company. And so we have never really been trying to find ourselves, find our voice. We've never been unsure of what our mission is. So, I mean, you know, we kind of joke about the ready room, but if you go back to that idea and you spend time in that ready room and you leave that room prepared, you have an idea of where you're going. You've got your mission is set. And our mission early on was super, super, super clear. And because of that, we've had a plan and a strategy, the steps along the way of, okay, we're going to do this next, we're going to do this next. And so it's made it very easy to be able to get, you know, post out, social media out, talk to people, and almost kind of tease what was coming next, which has been a big part of what we've done is we're always teasing the next thing because we knew what the next thing was actually going to be. And then we have really tried to make this about, it's about our community as much as it is about us. And when I say us, we try to keep it very personal. Almost all of our posts have something about, you know, me in them or Jonathan or our personalities or our team. And so it's very personal. And I think people feel like they can connect to us, and they know who we are, not just as individual owners, but as a team. Knowledge Perk has a personality. And our customers understand that personality. They like that personality. And it's like the cool guy, you know, the cool guy in the party. David, you were telling me all about Matt over here and how cool he was and his stories. Like when you know that guy, you see he's shaking his head. When there's that guy, you want to be friends with that guy because he's cool and he's real and it's sincere and you just like it. And I think we tried very hard. He's still not. I'm just taking a drink here. Yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Perk, Rock Hill.
So we wanted to do that. That was our goal. Our goal was to be very real, very sincere, know where we were going, and be willing to communicate that same message relentlessly. You know, full coffee immersion, coffee education, more than coffee. We're very friendly. We're very open. It's incredibly customer service oriented. We're all about our community, the mission, our people, our team. And I think that shines through and people want to be a part of something that's wholesome and good and going somewhere. And I think it's just opened every door in the community to us.
Yeah. Ryan, do you ship to all 50 states?
We do, and we have actually shipped a surprising number of them. We've sent stuff to California. We've actually shipped stuff to Hawaii. I think the only place we have not shipped to currently is Alaska, actually.
What should I order?
My personal favorite is going to be IPO. So all of our names of our signature blends are built around entrepreneurship. So that was the first product that we ever did. So we called that our initial product offering. And so that was our IPO. And then we realized, holy crap, we're spending a whole bunch of money. And so our second coffee was Burn Rate.
Love it.
I thought, thank you. And it happens to be our darkest roast coffee. It's our espresso. So we felt there's kind of a play there as well. We've got Accelerate. So IPO is our best seller. It's just a phenomenal coffee.
Oh, Burn Rate whole bean. Okay.
Yep. Burn Rate's a dark roast. It's our espresso.
Dark? Okay.
Yep.
Am I correct? Dark roasts have less caffeine. Is that correct? Because they cook faster?
You are correct. Yep. It's not that they cook faster, it's that they are roasted longer. So the longer you roast it.
I see. Yep. I see.
Caffeine is on the exterior shell of a bean. So the longer you roast it, it literally starts to break down and fall off and gets burnt. And so there's less caffeine in it.
So that when people they go to their Kroger's and they pick up like, ooh, I'm just gonna get a medium roast because it's not. I don't want all the. It's actually higher caffeine.
They're getting loaded. Yeah. Just straight loaded.
Well, this looks fantastic. You have the pods and you have the whole bean.
We do. So we roast everything in house. We package everything in house. We do our K cups. Our K cups are 100% recyclable. And the cool thing is, so we roast on Tuesday. It degasses on Wednesday because it needs about a day to set. And then on Thursday, we are actually packaging. And so what goes in even those K-Cups is really never more than 4 days old ever.
Wow.
We have never, actually, this is a really one of the cool thing. In 3 years of business, we have never thrown away a package or pound of coffee due to being out of date, ever.
Wow.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah.
So that is A, decent inventory control, and B, we
Yeah.
sell enough and it's fresh enough that it is always moving out the door. We have never marked out, and we have a 30-day shelf life. So from the time we package it, it stays on our shelf for 30 days. At 30 days, we throw it away. And in 3 years, we have never thrown away one package of coffee.
That's amazing. Nespresso cups?
Oh, I do that. We do that. We do that here. You mean like? Do you mean the little ones, or do you mean the pods?
The pods.
No Nespresso yet.
The big round pods now.
Yeah.
Yes. So we'll connect afterwards. We get burn rate ground. We bring it home and we do the pods ourselves. And it is delicious.
Okay.
Thank you. So,
They've got it going on.
In one of those little reusable little pod jobbies?
No, you actually have to use a Nespresso because it has a barcode on it.
Nespresso, that specific machine.
Yeah.
The fancy
Yeah. But it's the one that's thin.
The really good one.
It'll change your coffee life. I tell you, it's like the most delicious thing ever. So,
over my shoulder, you'll see right there, we've got a Mr. Coffee, right? Right there.
Got it. I got it.
Got it.
I'm very, very fancy.
There's nothing wrong with Mr. Coffee. If you have a good coffee and it is ground appropriately, it is measured correctly. You weigh everything. Scoop is the bane of your existence. If you scoop coffee, you're doing it wrong. Just so you know.
Wait, what? What?
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah. Drop a little knowledge on you, not from Knowledge Perk.
Rewind. Can you say that again?
Yes, if you are scooping coffee, so you use a scoop and you go like this, put it in there, you're doing it wrong. The easiest, best way to step up your coffee game at home and really just create a ridiculously good cup of coffee is to use a scale. Here's why. If you put dark coffee, so dark roast coffee, in the bottom of a cup, and let's say you had this much in the cup, okay? It's going to be, let's say that weighs 3 ounces, okay? You could do the exact same weight, 3 ounces, in a different cup. And if you do a light roast coffee, there's only this much in there. Because the more you roast coffee, the darker it is, the more it expands and the more voluminous it becomes. And it still it gains volume, but loses mass. Okay. So if you take a scoop of dark roast coffee, the beans are actually bigger and you're going to get less coffee. If you take a scoop of light roast coffee, it takes up less space because the mass is less. And so you'll actually have more coffee physically in the scoop, making your coffee stronger. And so you can never actually have the same ratio. So at Knowledge Perk, every single bag, every K-Cup, every pour over, Chemex, French press, individual cup, whatever, is done by weight. And if you do it by weight, you get the exact same product every single time. Because the discrepancy in a light roast and a dark roast is literally twice as much dark than light if you did it by scoop.
I feel like my whole life has been a lie. Everything.
Totally.
Throw that stuff away. Melly, we hear you. We lost my sister Melly at Scoop. No, get a scale and try it, and then you'll have
a scale
and post
a $20 scale will drastically change your coffee experience.
Like a little food scale, like a little.
Yeah, just a little food scale. And if you can do it in grams, it's easier because the metric system is actually a little bit easier than U.S. conversion system.
No,
so you can do
Canada has been trying to screw us for decades.
I'm just saying, in the coffee world, it's easier because a milliliter of water weighs 1 gram. And so you can weigh it out in milliliters or grams, and it's going to be the same either way.
Okay.
So it makes it very simple.
Melanie, I don't even get what I'm supposed to measure.
That's my question, teacher.
Yep.
I have a question, teacher.
Absolutely.
So I'd often do
that's the
French
Scott
pour.
Sorry.
Glenfiddich single malt Scotch whiskey. It's an experimental series #1, finished in India Pale Ale casks. Right. I'm sorry, Jessica, your question.
Okay,
So,
back to your question.
I use a French press. That's also,
Yes.
I like good coffee.
Yep.
Keurig is not included in that category. Nespresso is like a better machine than Keurig. And then I will also go French press.
Yep.
So I like medium to dark, which means I should be using less.
No, you shouldn't be losing yes, because if you do it by weight, you'd use the same weight regardless of the coffee. It will just take up less or more space in the French press. So for example, French press, get a scale. You're going to measure out 60 grams of coffee. Okay. So if you use a medium roast, 60 grams is going to be this much. Okay?
Writing it down.
Right.
With my lip gloss. I'm writing it down with my lip gloss. Go ahead. Go.
We are recording this, so it is
perfect. Okay,
right.
perfect. Good. 60 grams. And then it's probably a 33 ounce French press, like a regular 2 or 3 cup French press?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So then you're basically going to go to the top. It's probably going to be 300 milliliters of water. So that 60 grams is the measurement. So what will happen is if you did 60 grams of a light roast, it's only going to fill up this much of the bottom of the French press. The exact same 60 grams in a dark roast is going to fill up that much coffee in the French press.
Got it. Wow.
So 60 grams. So in coffee, we do everything by weight. You're welcome.
You just improved the quality of my life like dramatically, Ryan. So I just want to thank you. Thank you so much. I love coffee like wine. I think coffee is like wine. So
in the theater world, if somebody like hits a big high note and they just crush it, and everybody's sitting there watching it in rehearsal, what we do is we drop a shoe. That's what we just do.
Perfect.
The shoe has been dropped.
Well, and see, so this right here is great validation of our idea, because it's just such a simple thing. I mean, all we've done is switch out a scoop for a scale, but that difference of the scoop to the scale makes such a difference in the product. Which this particular product, coffee, makes a difference in how you start your day, how your mood goes for the day. It starts your meetings with the new person, whatever. So, I mean, it's such a big deal in our lives.
All of it.
And if you can prove that, okay, it does taste better, then not only do you have more faith in us as a company, because we've given you value that is now impacted literally every day for the rest of your life, and that's not an exaggeration, but there's a loyalty there. So now you're going to be a more loyal customer of ours. And we've given you something that is going to affect how you move forward in life. As simple as that little thing is, that's what we're going for. And so there's so many things that the coffee industry doesn't show its consumers, because it's easier to do something else.
It's easier, yeah.
Right. And so we're not necessarily going after the convenience, we're going after the quality. And eventually everybody may start in a Honda, but everybody's looking for the Mercedes-Benz. So you may start with a Honda and then you end up going to an Acura. But if you go through life, chances are your goal is to get inside that Mercedes-Benz or that BMW. We're trying to do that. You may start with a scoop, and then we're going to get you into a scale, and then we're going to get you into a scale with a French press, and then we're going to get you into Chemex.
Not Melanie. Melanie, are you reading this?
No, gone.
She's never, ever going to jump onto she's like, I want a scoop.
Scoop for each coffee.
I want a scoop. Invent the right scoop for each coffee. I want a scoop.
Convenience and quality.
For convenience and quality, walk into Knowledge Perk, conveniently located at 130 West White Street, and we will hand you that quality in a cup. Done.
Yeah, but that's fascinating.
Yeah, so that gives you an idea of some of the things that we like trying to create, the awareness that we like trying to create about.
We lost him.
We lost David.
He was like, I'm tired of this. I'm ready to go get some coffee, and I need a break, and now I'm thirsty.
Hey Ryan, let me ask you something. Just because it's such an ambulatory world here in Manhattan. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see how, in particular, coffee shops, which for many people are a place to go and hang out and work on your computer, and some people use them as their home offices. And in New York, it's probably about 50-50 of people, because you're walking everywhere, which is why we have 3 Starbucks within 3 blocks. But now actually things like Gregory's and things like that are taking up some of the market. Do you see a change in your business model without people being able to come in and sit in your store, or is that not a very big demo to begin with?
It's an interesting question because we are incredibly fortunate with where our location is. Our coffee company is almost 5,000 square feet. So your traditional coffee shop is going to be somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000. Your average Starbucks footprint is 2,000 square feet. So we are huge. So because of that, with everything that's going on right now, we have more of an opportunity for people to come in because our space is so large, they can spread out, and that's easy. We also have had to change our model to some degree because, for a while we couldn't open. We weren't on quite the same lockdown that you guys were, but we still had to close the retail portion of our cafe. And so we've figured out a whole new model with, curbside to go and that kind of stuff. And it's odd because it has changed a little bit. I would have never, ever considered 2 years ago us having a drive-through. To some degree, that changes, our goal to bring people in and be a part of that process. And I understand the convenience of the drive-through, but to some degree, it's just so insincere. It is super convenient and you can have a good quality in it. But part of the drive of our business and the pool that we have in the community is when you come in, we know who you are, you know who we are, you interact with us. And yet the business world, the world period in the space of 60 days has changed.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurs have to be cognizant of that. So while it was not ever originally in our brand, we are going to have to pivot. And I do see we're looking at a second location in Fort Mill right now. And, one of the questions for the realtor that I had was, could we put a drive-through here? I would have never asked that question before, but now it is, it's not as big a concern as the convenience for our customer as it is a necessity to have business sustainable. So we are having to change.
Right. It's because I noticed here, and I've never particularly liked Starbucks product. I like the smell as you walk by, but I don't actually like their coffee. I don't think it's very good.
Agreed.
But it doesn't seem to matter to them. Obviously it's a gigantic corporation, but I think here in the city, I don't know if they're going to take a huge hit. Them and the other smaller coffee shops, because here the footprint of a Starbucks is probably about 500 square feet. I mean, they're very
tiny.
Yeah. And you do see people sitting inside, but there's only 6 or 7 tables, if that.
Right.
And I noticed also that even when it was the height of the lockdown here, you'd see people with Starbucks cups or you'd see people with Gregory's cups because you could use the app. Walk to the door and they'd hand you it out the door and off you go.
Absolutely.
Which is obviously the New York equivalent of a drive-through.
Yeah.
And I don't follow their stock. I don't really care, but welcome back. But I was wondering how, and I'm glad you used that term pivot because it was one of the words that Dave and I started using from the beginning about how, it's the job of the forward thinkers right now to keep moving forward. You just have to pivot left or pivot right because you can't go straight. But I just because it is so different here than thinking about somewhere in a rural area where people can drive up, where people can stay far, far away. Here, people have been, like I said, when I saw people with Starbucks cups, I said, are they open? He said, no, they're not open. But if you use the app, they have a person waiting at the door and they go, Craig?
Right.
Bill, and people were still getting their fix. So that's interesting. To use that to have to pivot to doing something you wouldn't have thought that was part of your business model.
Yeah, I mean, when we started immediately doing, to-go service, curbside, and same thing, we had to really restructure our own technology and utilize an app and get people doing the same thing. And so, now that, a car pulls up and we go out, are you Jessica or are you David? And if you have to actually ask that question, it's probably a bad thing, but really whatever, you don't know these days. Yeah, exactly. I'm trying not to assume. You know what that does. So Jessica, David, whichever one you are, confirm that. And then we run inside, grab the cinnamon rolls, grab the coffee. We did things like limiting our menu. We took away whatever was the most labor intensive products inside the store, which for us is an ice perk. So it's a blended drink. Somebody from like Starbucks would know it as a Frappuccino. So we took those off the menu. We reduced our food all the way down to our just number one bestseller. And so we only had one food item. So we did steps like that to make it as simple as possible. And we did have to use the app and take things out there. And
What is that
it's interesting.
Food item? Is a food item something that's already pre-made?
It's a cinnamon roll that we bake in house, and it is. We actually put a little bit of crack cocaine in the icing and mix it up.
That's the secret.
We can't edit that out either.
Dang it!
I'm not very good at this. I'm just giving away all the secrets.
Hey, did you have to furlough anybody, or were you able to keep your staff on?
I'm drinking wild turkey American honey that time.
There you
Delicious, but yes, actually, we moved faster than almost anybody else, honestly, in our county. When we made decisions pretty quick, and we laid off 18 of our team members at the beginning of this. I think it was March 18th. And we had just brought on a couple new people, so it was pretty difficult. David Stringer's son was one of those people that we had to call and say, "Hey, buddy, you don't work here anymore." So that was a tough day. And
I had
we
to
did
kick him
that.
out of the house. It was, it was
It
a
was
bad
brutal.
scene.
Like,
Hey, listen, if you lost your paycheck, man, I can't put a roof over
you
your
got to
head.
go. I know.
You know you're only 15, but look,
Contribute.
nice
Everybody has to contribute.
You got to do what you got to do, man. It's a tough world out there. So we did do that, and then we did that for two reasons. We just didn't know what was going to happen next, and we needed to be super nimble, and it's hard to be nimble with a massive payroll. It just is.
Yeah.
And we knew that if we did that faster than anybody else thought we should, that we had a good chance of our people getting unemployment faster than everybody else. And it turns out a week later, the website for South Carolina unemployment was crashed because so many people were trying to do it. So moving that fast allowed our people to do that. And the cool thing is we built, when you talk about our social media and how do we grow, it's almost exclusively about our culture, and people want to be a part of our culture, and that includes our team members. So the cool thing is, when we did that, nobody cried, nobody was upset. They knew what was going on, they knew why we did it, and to a person, every single one asked if we were okay. I'm like I had to let you go. Why are you asking me if I'm okay? They asked that, and every single person offered to come in and volunteer off the clock to make sure that the company made it. Every single one. So I'm gonna tear up if I think about it, because it was really, really cool.
That's incredible.
So we did get to bring some of them back. Now, we have not brought everybody back yet because we are still trying to be nimble, and we've learned things about our business. Talk about trial by fire. It turns out you can do a whole lot more with a whole lot less than you ever thought if you have to.
Yes.
And we had to. And so it's going to change how we do business from now on. We're not going to look at labor the same. We're not going to run shifts the same. We're going to change our hours. So it's been good for us, and we've learned a lot. But we were able to stay successful enough that April was a record month.
Wow.
The worst month in the history of small business for everybody, and we had our best sales month in 3 years.
Ryan, I think that you really spoke to something that's important, not only now, but going forward in business ownership, and that is company culture. I mean, it is key to getting good people, keeping good people. And I just think there's no way for the old, harsh, corporate work environment to survive after this. And so congratulations, because you're proving that not only does that model work really well, but it brought you through, a global pandemic.
Thank you. It is, I will say that it is, when people ask us, or if they ask me, what's your favorite thing about Knowledge Perk? It is an immediate resounding our culture. David, Jonathan and I spent a whole bunch of time working on our mission statement and making it clear, concise, and making sure our people understood why that was what it was. Our core values are well articulated throughout our company documents and our company interactions and meetings. And then we try to take care of people, because if we take care of our people, then they're going to take care of the company. And that, by extension, is just going to make everything better. Even something like I told David this, and David, I'm pretty sure the first time I ever told you this, you were like, what the frick is wrong with you? Because we were trying to figure out, how do we be different? How do we be bold? And if you go back to why not and what if, we're talking about vacation policies and doing things kind of like European style. And so our vacation policy for the company is you earn 1 hour of vacation for every 10 hours that you work. So if you're a 40-hour-a-week employee, you earn 6 weeks of paid vacation a year. And that's the same policy for David's 15-year-old son as it is for me.
Wow, that's awesome. That's
Okay, so last week I asked Jessica for a job.
Are you like, wait a minute, are you backing off?
No. All my options open.
He's multitasking.
We can't limit
multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
The theater will not be reopening for probably another 10 to 12 months. So I'll give you a call.
Sweet.
So
It's a great
can't
place
wait to have
to
you.
work. It's a great, sounds like a really, really great
Amazing.
place to work, and really inspiring. Just future entrepreneurs that have that focus on, just the culture of how we treat people. When you were talking about entrepreneurship last week, David, and we were talking about companies, and there are certain types of entrepreneurs. You are the entrepreneur of the present and the future, Ryan. This is what people want. This is what that millennial generation, I think, coming up has said, we are not going to deal with the crap that our parents dealt with in corporate America or in companies that treated them like shit. So I think it's awesome. It's the only entrepreneur I ever want to be. It's how I ran my studio 20 years ago. And it's just, that's when I feel like you are definitely contributing to the quality of humanity.
Yeah, I would agree, and we try really hard to do that. I think everybody just assumes that if you throw money at it, it's going to fix it. If you give them a better benefits package, better 401k, and the reality is, you said it with the millennial generation, and now even the boomers and others are coming back to it. The one thing that you can't get back is your time. So the most important value is not a dollar. It is your time. It's what can you do with yourself and with your life. And so if you reward people or you incentivize them with that as opposed to dollars, I mean, obviously they want money as well. But we started interviewing people early on and said, would you rather make, $14 an hour and have, a couple of days of vacation, or would you rather make, $12 an hour and have a month of vacation a year? And it is a unanimous. It's, I want the month of vacation. They're not concerned about taking less time or less money if they know that they have time to go enjoy and do things they want to do. And so it's a different world now. And if an entrepreneur is willing to A, take that leap of faith and go do something different, and B, even more importantly, if they're willing to go ask their employees, what do you want? And be brave enough to give it to them, that's a hell of a workforce to have moving forward.
Yep.
Well, that's how you build you
definitely.
you built that loyalty. A couple of topics that I want to make sure we cover as we're sort of winding close to that time where we said, okay, past an hour and a half, might want to wrap it up, but again, we're not on a clock.
I have to go to the roof in 6 minutes, so I'm going to peace out.
Well, you might have to peace out because this is a great conversation. So Ryan,
got to go to the roof and
tell us one of your truisms that you invented and came out of conversations that you and I have had, many conversations. Tell us about necessary fail period.
NFP. I was thinking about this yesterday. I really wish I'd put this on a t-shirt already. So I'm going to have a t-shirt made. It's going to be like #NFP. Because I think that is where an entrepreneur should live, is this necessary fail period. It is okay to screw it up. It is okay to get it wrong. It is okay to have no idea what the hell you're doing. Because if you're okay with that and you can accept that, then as an entrepreneur, you're going to have this necessary fail period. You're going to have this time where you think you have a good idea, and maybe it is, but it's going to get tested. It's going to get changed. You're going to pivot. You're going to adjust. People are going to give you insight. People are going to give you advice. People are going to say, yes, no, it's a bad idea, great idea, whatever. And chances are it's not going to work the first time. And it's almost certainly not going to work how you thought it was going to work. When I look at Knowledge Perk, there was this great idea of, okay, here's our path. Here's what we're going to do. And we're still headed down here, but it's gone like this. And there's a couple of times we've completely fallen off a cliff, and we had to go back and get a new rental car and get back on the road again because that car's in flames and it's gone and it's not going anywhere. That's okay. That was a necessary fail period. We got it out of the way. We've moved on from there. there's no failure. You either success or you learn something. And so that's what that
part
period of time is.
Part of that idea that if you can be a good entrepreneur, you can disconnect from the identity of whatever you put out, because you are going to fail. You are going to screw things up. You are not going to have all the answers. And
Nope.
if you and that's one of the things I really like about your style of developing ideas and companies is it's okay to fail. You're gonna fail. And so that pressure is now off, right? I mean, I remember, oh my gosh, back in the early days of Insignia, and I felt like it was sort of a ladder that kept getting built rung at a time. And I was going up higher and higher, and the ground was getting farther and farther away. And I thought, boy, run one wrong move and it's all coming down. And so I was plagued by that fear of the escalation of, oh, wow, that actually worked. We sold something. We made some money. Whoa, I hired some more people. There's a lot of people around here now. Oh, shit, I've got reports. I've never had reports before. It's like it just gets higher and higher, and you go, oh, Jesus. And you start thinking more about the fear that you're going to fall than continuing to build. So that's one of the qualities I really admire about what you've been able to accomplish. Is necessary fail period is, hey, it's part of the deal.
It is. It's so difficult to accept, but if you can, I remember. And I don't want to skip around too much, but when I left Spiffy, I was making really good money. So I was well past six figures. They offered me a ton of money to stay. Again, this is the guy who owns the company's had 2 IPOs. He's worth a small fortune.
Wingo?
Scott Wingo. Yep, Scott Wingo. Super smart guy. Look him up on LinkedIn. He's been, he does a lot of stuff with Amazon, with Google. He's been an executive, but I mean, the guy's just crazy. And so now this company is they're actually pre-IPO right now. So I left a company that was headed towards an IPO. They raised $40 million in funding. My job was super secure. I'd never had so much money and been able to do so much stuff. And I left to go to our own company. At the time, 0 income. So I literally did not have a salary yet. I had no money. And I remember so vividly thinking, holy crap, I'm going from this massive mountain and I'm jumping off without a parachute. And it was actually, my wife was the one that's like, do it. I'm like, wait, what?
Yes.
Worst case scenario, we can go get another job. We can do it, but just go do it. And it's like,
good for
worst case scenario, I got to get another job. And it's like at that point, just everything is rolled up. And that has been just my mantra since then. It's like, look, we can figure it out. There is nothing that we cannot overcome, get past, and do whatever. And worst case scenario, it all folds in on itself. So what? Go try it again.
Awesome.
That's right. All right, we are right at the mark. How about we wrap this show? Ryan Sanderson, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Jess, thanks for showing up tonight.
Thank you for having
me. Who knew Jess was going to join us?
And I think we'll probably down the road check in with Ryan for sure. See how he's doing as we move forward.
Speaking of entrepreneurs, can you hear the ice cream man in the background?
I can. Yeah,
I can hear him.
A little bit.
See, my mom was super, super clever as a kid, and she always told us that if the music was playing, that meant the ice cream truck was out of ice cream.
Oh, Samantha.
That's dirty.
That is
terrible one. But genius.
This guy's actually brilliant because he drives around the neighborhood right up to 7 o'clock when everybody starts which is happening right now, the tribute to all the healthcare workers. And so people come outside and they're banging their pots and pans and they're walking up and down the streets. And this dude's just like, come on, man, ice cream. Woo!
Yeah.
He's crushing
Timing is everything.
Absolutely crushing it.
Timing is everything.
Definitely.
All right. We are going to bid everybody a great Friday, great weekend, holiday weekend. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you to all those that have served our country in the armed services. We appreciate your service. Thank you very much. And we will see you next Friday. Thanks for tuning in.
See you guys. Thank you.
Bye.